Welcome, everyone, to All Elite Wrestling Unrestricted. Tony Schiavone and our co-host
Aubrey Edwards. What's up?
I wasn't going to say your name, but that's
No.
okay.
We keep that private.
Aubrey, as you know, is one of our great referees here on All Elite Wrestling.
Checks in the mail, Tony.
That's right. This is the official AEW podcast, and our first guest is a man who needs no introduction, as the old cliche goes. Longtime close personal friend, and obviously someone said to me, one of the greatest commentators in pro wrestling. I'm going to say the greatest commentator ever in pro wrestling.
Stop.
You know, you're right. Jim Ross,
Stop.
JR, you're here. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you guys.
Fantastic.
Congratulations on your show.
Thanks. A lot of going on, isn't it?
Yeah.
In pro wrestling, it's a great time, isn't it?
A lot of moving parts, my man.
Yeah.
You gotta keep up.
Yeah, it's a great time to be part of this. And Aubrey, I know you would agree.
Yeah, I mean, we're like having a lot of fun.
Right.
Like, that's the big thing, right? Like,
Right.
it's nice to create an alternative, but also just having a blast, not really caring or giving a hell.
It's good to be back on the road for me. And
Well, and it's a lighter schedule for someone like you, right?
yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I come to work and do my work and go home.
I don't know how you guys did it, like with 6 days a week or whatever the
Going
hell
back
it
to the
was.
office in Titanland
Right.
was a never-ending journey.
Sure.
So people don't understand sometimes how challenging this business is when you're dealing with alpha male type men and women who are largely insecure, who are always looking over their shoulder at their own professional mortality. And it's just a tough business. There's no off season. Everybody's got to regenerate their batteries from time to time. But in this business, you're challenged with that. It's like I was telling somebody the other day, I said, when we go on the road on TNT on Wednesday nights, there's going to be some soldiers fall by the wayside. There's so many weeks in, there's going to be a line of demarcation where people says, I just can't do it.
Right.
I can't leave my family again once a week, every week. And I'm
It's
thinking,
once a week.
yeah, I
Put
know.
your shit together.
Right.
Well, actually,
I agree with that.
well, we want to talk about you and talk about your beginnings, because I know that that you were a referee and you grew up loving wrestling, and talk about those days before Jim Ross became Jim Ross on TV and became JR.
Well, I was the only child. We lived in a 160-acre farm in eastern Oklahoma in a 4-room concrete block home that had been formerly a dairy barn. All this is true now. So it had 4 rooms, and none of those rooms had a toilet. So we had an outdoor toilet
Whoa.
until I was in the 4th grade. Hence, I didn't have a lot of sleepovers at my place
I wouldn't blame you.
Right.
for a few years there. A
I
little
wouldn't
drought.
want to go over.
Yeah, well,
I had a buddy in school who was like, "Hey, you can come over to my house, but you have to like shit in a shack." Like, no.
yeah. I think when that lady does that commercial, the she shed,
Yeah.
I think of the shit shed.
Okay.
The worst experience of my life was going in there to take care of my business
Right.
and turning and looking and seeing that I wasn't alone.
Was it a bear?
It was a snake,
Oh no!
all coiled up, looking at me like, one of us got to leave here.
Like it's gonna bite.
I said, I'll leave. I'm out.
Yo, we're done. This is all your.
I ran this very
It's all
fast
yours.
NFL-like shuttle run
Right.
with my pants around my ankles. It was an awesome sight, I'm sure. But that's the nice thing about living on a 160-acre farm. You can do whatever the hell you want because there's nobody looking.
Right.
So then but I love wrestling. If I had did my chores and my grades are good, and they always were, the old man would let me watch my 2 favorite shows to show you how cultured my family was, and I am to this very day.
Right.
Those 2 shows were pro wrestling and roller derby.
Hell yeah!
I
Wow.
was in, baby. I was
Right.
in.
Roller derby's great.
Gimmick heaven.
Right.
I loved it. So, and I just followed that, and then I got to college at Northeastern State University in Tahlequah. It was an NAIA school at that time. They're Division 2 or 3 now, whatever it may be. All those divisions confuse me. At my age, a lot of things confuse me. But we kind of got afoul of the law, fraternity-wise.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you were a problem in college.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised to hear that.
I was
at
very
all.
attitudinal and hard to manage.
You were.
Yes, I was. And I still am
You grew
challenging.
out of it. Yeah.
Well, I just got to another level of it where I got paid for being a prick.
How do I do that?
It's not a bad gig.
Sweet.
But so then we
hang out with JR more
had
often.
to do a fundraiser. So the president of the fraternity and myself are both big wrestling geeks, and they used to advertise on the wrestling show. You know, if your nonprofit group or organization wants to sponsor championship wrestling, then send us a card, and and then we'll If it routes correctly, we'll get back in touch with you. So we did that. I swear I met Leroy McGurk and Bill Watts and the whole 9 yards. So, and that's what got my love of the business. He said, when you get out of college, kid, I got a job for you. It was for $150 a week, all in. No insurance, no per diem, no gas money.
Just straight cash.
$150. Mm-hmm. So I paid those dues. And I did everything I could because all the little things you did, you got a little extra money. If you're on the ring crew, you got a couple of bucks. If you're refereeing, you got a couple of bucks.
Sure.
Yeah.
Ring announce, you got a couple of bucks.
Oh, yeah.
I put window posters in the windows of towns, promote spot shows, got a couple of bucks. So I did all the couple of bucks I could get my hands on.
So it wasn't he was driven, you just wanted the money.
Well, that's
well, I had to eat.
Right.
Oh, that's true.
That's driven. If I'm making money to survive, and I had a 17-year-old wife, she was married, so she was very young, and we were both trying to learn how to be adults.
Right.
Both trying to learn how to be married, and I wasn't good at either one of those things.
Gotcha.
And but that marriage did last 7 years, but it didn't survive the first run of wrestling.
So how did you first start behind the microphone? When did all that take place?
I drove Mr. McGurk, who was totally blind, to Shreveport to do TV, and when we got there, Cowboy Bill Watts said, "I forgot that Reeser's off. Reeser Bowden was the announcer. He is on vacation, so they had nobody else. So, hey kid, you've been talking about doing this." He gave me a $100 bill. He said, "Go to Dillard's and buy a blue blazer, a light blue shirt, and a red tie. They're not going to see your pants because you'll be sitting at a table the whole deal."
Right.
So I went to Dillard's. I got me what he told me to get. I came back, showed it to him, and I was walking away to go to get dressed. He said, "Hey, wait a minute. Where's my change?" So for under $100, I got my first TV attire, right?
Right.
So, but that's what I did. I did that, and because Mr. McGurk was blind, I had to be much more descriptive,
Right,
than I normally would if he had sight and when we were working off the monitor. I've always preached, you got to work off the monitor because that's what the folks at home are seeing.
That's right.
You keep everybody connected.
Right.
And so that monitor was useless because he couldn't see the monitor or not a monitor.
How do you end up doing commentary without being able to actually see anything?
Well, he was a former wrestler, and he was a great NCAA champion. He was a NWA junior heavyweight champion when it meant a lot.
Okay.
So he understood the game. He has him in a side headlock takeover, he could visualize exactly what a side headlock takeover looked like.
Gotcha.
But it was an adventure, especially when I didn't have any experience.
Yeah. Well, but you obviously had the gift of it. You could talk. I mean, you've got the gift of gab.
I looked at it now I look at it like it was a hot tag.
Right.
I said, this is my ticket to get my fat ass off this ring crew.
Right.
Or not having to do the refereeing.
Right.
The money I was making, the good money I was making in the early going was promoting spot shows. Mm-hmm. I'd promote the shows, I'd do the box office settlement, I'd referee the matches, and I'd have a ring crew there to help me and the sponsor take the ring up, put it up, take it down. That was money there.
Yeah.
So you're going from making $25 a night to maybe $150.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Right.
For an old country boy.
Right.
So were you? So like of all the positions, like announcing was definitely.
That was no calling.
Yeah.
I think my best work at the end of the day someday will be the talent that I signed that went to WWE and have become millionaires.
Yeah, because you were talent relations for a bit, right?
For quite a while.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah.
Long time. I was there 26 years, and the majority of that, I was in charge of the talent relations.
Right.
And, negotiate all the contracts. Was a good listener. You got to be a good listener of those guys and gals. You find out that they're very insecure entertainers. And they're getting paid discretionary monies largely. And that also is an unsettling thing for some people because they don't understand that formula. Mm-hmm. So, but I enjoyed that. I think that's my greatest contribution, quite frankly, is the guys that I helped facilitate to get in the game at that level, and then to see how they ran with the ball.
Is there anyone that, in your opinion, was like the one that got away?
Well, no, we kind of got what we needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking about The Rock, and we're talking about Batista and John Cena.
I had one signing class with our team that we signed Lesnar, Batista, Cena.
Jesus.
and who else? Orton and Shelton Benjamin, who was by far the best athlete of the group. But we signed those guys, and I would predict that all of those guys will be in their Hall of Fame someday.
Right.
I mean, Batista's going in pretty soon.
Yeah, he's next class.
Yeah.
So going back, how long were you with Mid-South before the deal with Crockett came about in the late 80s? How many years was that for you?
Over 10.
10 years?
Yeah. I went to work for Leroy and Bill in 1974.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what year the Crockett Watts buyout was, 86 or 7.
It was 87, I believe. It was the first year that you started on TBS with us, right?
So that was that. And that was a big deal. That was a big thrill for me because one of the key impetus for me as a fan and somebody that just had a dying need or thought a need, a desire to be in the wrestling business, TBS was open the door to a whole new world.
Right.
So we didn't have cable. So I would drive the 30 miles one way to my cousin's house on Saturdays to watch wrestling.
Right.
Awesome.
And then stay there till the 2-hour show was over.
Right.
And drive back home another 30 miles.
Right.
But that's how badly I wanted to be kept informed and see the product and experience it and all those things. And it was an interesting show.
Yeah. Well, 605 on Saturdays was the premier nationwide wrestling show in the 80s at that time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I told people this a lot, that you were the unfortunate one that had to follow solely.
Right.
'Cause that's hard.
Yes, it
to
is.
follow a legend like that. And then, so by the time I got there, you guys had already been doing your thing.
Right.
And it wasn't that,
Right.
we want Gordon type deal.
Right. And it was a smooth transition to bringing you in. I mean, it really was. And we had some good years. And then, of course, the sale of Crockett, and we started working for TBS. And
Would you say that you two really clicked right out of the gate?
Pretty much.
I think so.
We had no personal agendas on it. We had
That's
how do we
right.
get us over?
Right.
Here's how we get us over, kid.
Right.
Our job is to get the talent over.
Right.
That's what our job is today. Our job description has changed not one iota since we met and since we worked together at the first Clash of Champions.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Well, the job description doesn't change.
Right. I just guess I never thought of it that way.
It shouldn't change for the wrestlers either,
Right.
or the referees. Right. I mean, really, it's we have certain responsibilities that come with our job. And when everybody starts realizing what those are and that we take responsibility for our own stuff, then all the business will get stronger and healthier. But right now, there's more guys making more money in wrestling than any time in my lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
So how can it be a bad time? How can the business be on a down cycle? It isn't.
No.
And we're just building our audience. And I think that in AEW, and people can start to keep, I run into people all the time that don't even know I'm back on the air.
Yeah.
So it's a process.
Sure.
And that's why I don't live and die on the damn ratings.
Right.
You guys beat our ass 83 weeks in a row, and I still got to go to work. I still got to manage the roster.
Yeah.
I still got to talk guys off the ledge. Are we going under? No, we're not going under.
Right. But you were a part of, now moving past the TBS years and you went to the WWE, you were part of their greatest era, I think. And I know the Hulkamania era in the 80s was a great era for them too, but really their biggest era was the Attitude Era.
I mean, that's the one that everyone talks about. And like I remember seeing, like, you see the D-Generation X, like crotch chop, like on other forms of media, like guys are doing it as celebrations whenever they score touchdowns. And it's like that was such a huge part of wrestling, that era.
It emotionally connected with the audience.
Yeah.
Anytime an entertainer of any ilk can connect with his or her audience, the ticket buying, the record buying, the concert goer, whatever, then that's when the magic happens.
Yeah.
Who is my audience and how do I find them? That's marketing. It's not you have to have 18 degrees and 17 meetings. Who is my audience and how do I reach them? The most efficient way and the most memorable way, so my message will stay with them over past the next 30 seconds.
So let me say this. What do you think we're doing well then?
AEW?
Yeah.
Well, we're introducing a lot of young guys that still are trying to figure out how to wrestle in a main event level match on a national outlet like TNT. This is not access television. This is not a cable thing.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. And I told guys that. I said, you don't realize the opportunity you have to become rich and famous. Let's cut to the chase.
Household names.
You want to be rich and famous, don't you? Oh, hell yeah. Well, here's your vehicle. Jump aboard and make a difference. And so, but a lot of these kids you can talk to in that vein, whereas in other companies that have more guys that are older and set in their ways, they sometimes get offended when you infer that they're not busting their ass.
Interesting.
And you haven't changed your game yet. Since you got that big deal, you haven't changed nothing.
All right, coming up, we're going to be talking to JR about his journey to AEW, which is an interesting story in itself.
Sweet. So we're back. JR, let's talk about how you got involved with AEW, like how this whole thing happened for you.
Well, as a lot of things in my life it happened over alcohol.
It's funny. I haven't been in this business for very long, but I've learned that's a very, very big thing.
It's a common denominator for a lot of guys.
We're drinkers with a wrestling problem.
I've been drinking Moscow mules now.
We were talking about that beforehand. Have you ever had a Mexican mule?
Well,
you replaced
that one trip to Tijuana.
We don't talk about that. We don't talk about that. You replaced the vodka with tequila.
Oh.
Okay.
And I've heard you like peach vodka?
No,
Pear.
Pear, that's the one. Started with P.
Yeah.
It was close.
Pear mules are really good.
Yeah.
Really? Okay, I'm gonna have to try that.
So I didn't start drinking again until I made it to start working with him again. So
yeah.
Dick Buckus told me the same thing. I was smoking and drinking Crown Royal, and he started smoking again and drinking my Crown Royal. So we'd go through a half a pint.
Oh boy.
More often than not before we would broadcast football. He was my partner in the XFL for a while.
Right.
Then they added Dan Hampton to us.
Right.
And it only got worse. We just bought a bigger bottle of Crown Royal because the three of us are, we're in the B game of the XFL. So okay, we'll do our best. What was your question?
How did you get into AEW?
Start over alcohol.
Right.
Yeah, the alcohol.
Yeah.
I was in Long Beach, California, working for Access TV.
Okay.
Calling New Japan matches on tape, voiceover, which is really a detriment to their product, quite frankly, but that's the hand we were dealt. But we had live shows to call as well, a few live shows, and we had a doubleheader weekend in Long Beach. We stayed at a hotel where the company put us up at the same place that Tony Khan and Alex Marvez are staying.
Ooh.
So that's where I met Alex. I had known for a long time.
Right.
Alex knows everybody.
I've started to pick that up a little bit.
Yes, he does.
And if he doesn't, he'll just no, I'm kidding.
He'll tell you he does.
He's a good. But Alex was very instrumental in me being here. So he introduced me to Tony, and we kind of partied over the weekend, and we'd talk a little bit about wrestling and strategic, what I would do, and if I did this, and if I wouldn't want to do that if I owned a company type deal. Just shooting a breeze.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah.
But I had no idea that somewhere in his very able mind that Tony was already thinking about something like AEW.
Right.
Oh, when was this again, timeline-wise?
It was 3 years ago.
3 years ago, okay.
About that.
Yeah, sounds about right. Because I think Tony's been talking about doing something like this for a long time. It's just the timing
I'm sure
of it.
He's been fantasizing about being a promoter or a
writing,
booker or whatever.
Yeah, writing.
Since he was a little kid.
Right. Yeah, that was his hobby, writing wrestling TV shows.
I've coached the Oklahoma Sooners for like 60 years now.
Right. Well, everybody does that from the living room armchair.
Right? I mean,
No, I get it. Yeah.
So that's the same deal.
Sure. Right.
So we became friends and kept in touch. And then the decision was made that he said, we're going into business, and I want you to be here. So I don't know if I was the first person hired. I can tell you I was one of the first 5 hired. And I always thought that was good because he wanted me to be at least a voice of his brand at that time.
Right.
And then, then we were lucky enough to be able to add Tony, and Excalibur is doing a great job. I know he's, to me, it's daunting to work with a mask on. It would be for me.
Right.
I'm just, but he's really smart, and he's got great familiarity with a lot of the talents that I don't.
Right.
I don't know if Tony does.
He has like an encyclopedic knowledge of every single wrestling move and what it's called and who does it and all these sort of things. And he's been doing that for years. Like I've watched a lot of his.
But he had to learn also how do I translate my game from Access TV, like a cable channel type deal, to a major network like TNT. And it's same for the talent. So I think that's kind of what we've all been helping each other is how to adapt to being on a major outlet, a major network, in prime time, doing live television. There's no net.
No.
There's no do-overs.
No, there's not.
So, to me, that's the only way to do it. It's the only way to do it.
That's right.
Live
TV is the way to do it.
It's the way to go. So,
absolutely.
But that was the deal. I met Tony. He came to watch New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Right.
And he and Alex were hanging out and buddy weekend. And
right.
So that was how it started.
It was a smart hire. I mean, realistically, I know you don't like to blow your own horn, so I'm going to blow it for you. To get you on board, really put AEW in a national spotlight. That you were going to be doing the commentary, you'd be doing you'd be the lead announcer.
I hope it helped.
Yeah, well, it did.
I think it did.
Yeah.
I think it adds a lot of legitimacy.
Yeah.
And that's why I knew. See, because of my previous life, I'm a big believer that your narrator, your soundtrack, is important. And it was not always that way in WWE. And so, I always thought that was kind of stupid, because how can you downplay your broadcasters in a television entity? Think about what I just said. It's like, that would make no sense, would it? No, it don't make any sense.
No,
none.
So I don't know. I think that coming to work for Tony, when we started talking, he was, I want you to be you.
Sure.
For better or for worse. And I'm not perfect, and I'm going to make mistakes. I've made plenty of them, but I'm having a great time.
I think that's kind of the uniform thing that Tony basically tells everybody at AEW is like, just be yourself.
Yeah.
I know, like, I've seen him in like the post-show pressers and whatnot, where he's like, our people have personalities because they're people with personalities. So why not hide that? And that's one of the things that I personally love about AEW. So I like that we get the freedom to kind of do what we want to do.
I like the fact that we don't have writers that tell everybody what to say.
Oh yeah, it's great. And everyone's kind of throwing ideas around at each other. Like, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Let's do this. Like, I see it all the time backstage.
Yeah.
People are just chit-chatting about what we can do to like make the product better, make all of ourselves better, get our characters over and whatnot.
No one should be more committed to their skill than these wrestlers.
Exactly.
They're going to make the most money.
Well, and if you're not invested in it, the fans aren't going to be invested.
They see through it.
Exactly. They're smart.
Fans see through it. They see through disingenuality. That's, again, why the promos that we've had recently have been excellent, because it came from the heart and the creativity of the talent presenting it.
Yes.
And that's different than, say, here's your promo. Now, become a Shakespearean actor or actress and go memorize your lines that we're going to do tonight live in the ring.
Well, it's a completely different thing to ask some of these people.
Well, think about that system. Think about it. Okay, you want me to read? You want to interpret your creative and memorize it,
right?
To be able to deliver tonight. And I just saw that we did no rehearsals, no time to memorize. Here we go. I get it now. That's not a good system.
No.
But if you give somebody bullet points, then their natural instincts just start coming into play.
Right. Use what they were hired for. And it's the same thing with us. Tony Khan's not in our ear. No one's in our ear to tell us what to say.
Tony Khan's not in your ear.
No.
He's in my ear all the time.
Good. But no, he's not in our ear to tell us what to say, because he's letting JR be JR. He's letting him be who he hired you to be.
That's interesting. I had no idea.
All of us.
Right.
He lets. We all got free reign to do what we believe is right.
Right.
If Tony believes he hired the right guys, then why not be a good manager and let them do their job? Because here's the deal. The day that we collectively or individually drop the ball and we fumble enough times in the old red zone, somebody's ass is gone.
Right.
I get that. And that's accountability. And some people are deathly afraid of accountability because they've never had to be accountable. Well,
and conflict and negativity. Like, everything's great when it's all hunky-dory and we're all having a good time, but the moment shit hits the fan, like...
And the shit will hit our fan.
Yeah, it will.
Sure will.
It will.
And then we'll find out who are soldiers, who want to come out of the tent, and who wants to go hide.
Yeah.
Right. Great business plan, though, don't you think, for AEW? And I mean, there's so many moving parts. We've got people in Jacksonville. I'm in Atlanta. We do some production in Atlanta.
I'm in Seattle, like far away from everybody.
But
I'm hiding from all
and
y'all.
you still work in the front office, so it's not like we got a base.
Right.
But a lot of moving parts. But I think it's very unique. Yeah.
It's unique, but I like the fact that we're trying to build that TV audience, and that's what's going to build our live event audience, which is also going to help build our merchandise sales.
Yeah, buddy.
So all that stuff works once the TV show gets established to some degree, and we get that. We need to be hitting 1 million viewers.
Sure.
And more and keep adding. But we will.
Sure. I believe we will, yeah.
It's a marathon, right?
Hey, I walked through the airport with this hat on, and it can be a real blessing or a curse, okay?
Right.
But I don't mind. I'm still a fan. I'll take 1,000,000 selfies, no problem. But it's sad to me that when somebody looks at you and says, JR, when are you going to get back on television?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I am on television every Wednesday night on TNT at 7 o'clock Central Time.
Right.
Or 7 Central. But they didn't know.
Right.
The words has to get around.
Sure, it's a process.
And there's a lot of damn wrestling on television.
Oh, I know.
But I really believe the individuality that we have, the youth, and the athleticism. There's a freshness here of a kid working on an indie show making $40 or $50 or $100 to getting on national television and raising their game because they thought all along their game was good enough. Then they get here and they find out, well, my game really isn't good enough. I got to continue to get better at what I do for a living.
Right. And the channel we're on means a lot too, don't you think? Because of I mean, there's like you said, there's a lot of wrestling on TV, but being on TNT.
Well, there's history there.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Natural history.
Sure.
And TNT has the NBA.
Right.
Which is I spend a lot of time watching TNT during basketball season because I enjoy the pregame show and the halftime stuff.
The spectacle of it.
Well, yeah, those got Ernie Johnson's
the entertainment
group.
value.
They're amazing and they're entertaining.
Right.
They're better than any NFL pregame or postgame team by far.
Right.
Because they give you information, they give you an opinion. Whether you like it or not, you get an opinion, and that's kind of what we do on AEW. You're opinionated, and I'm opinionated. And someone says, "Well, I can't believe you're talking about our little female champion, Riho, weighing 98 pounds. You're trying to kill her? What? I got a sheet, asshole. It says 98 pounds on it.
Right.
What do you mean to do?
It's accurate,
Give
right?
her a couple of pounds. Oh, she's a 100-pounder now. She had a great Thanksgiving in Tokyo. So whatever. It's like you just sometimes you can't win, but nonetheless, we're in a good spot.
Yeah,
we got Chris Jericho continues to reinvent himself.
Oh, it's insane.
And he's on top of his game. And here's the thing about that, and folks, here's how that works. In the same vein of thought, where we don't have writers to tell the wrestlers what to say in a given scenario. Jericho can come handle his own creative.
Absolutely.
He can be himself. And I think that's something that he has not been able to have, that freedom. Maybe a little bit in New Japan when he had his run over there.
Right.
But by and large, the guys domestically in the pro wrestling business haven't had that luxury of creating their own content.
Well, and if that's like what made you, like why not continue doing what's successful?
Well, that sounds logical, but sometimes the decision makers in wrestling
aren't logical.
No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. There's been a lot. We've talked about JR in the wrestling business. I want to talk a little bit about what you got coming up and some of the things that you've done that's been outside the wrestling business.
Well, I appreciate you. Tony sent out a tweet. I gave him the manuscript of this next book called Under the Black Hat. And it's a continuation of my autobiography, which was Slobberknocker.
Right.
My life in wrestling.
Wrestling.
So we're done with that now.
Right.
And Tony, you're nice enough to read it and give me feedback. I appreciate it and seem to like it. So that's coming out in March.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So we have high hopes for that.
Okay.
It's done with Simon & Schuster. So I went from Skyhorse to Simon & Schuster.
Right.
It's a big difference. I'll say that politely, but there is a big difference.
All right.
And Simon & Schuster is trying to make a priority of this book, and they love it.
Right.
It really covers some drastic things. And it's almost too dark at times.
Right.
But when you talk about being fired and getting sick and having facial paralysis as a TV broadcaster, and then your best friend, your wife getting killed 30 seconds from your garage for no reason.
Yeah.
Well, it's like life isn't always sunshine and rainbows, right?
All right, JR, hold that thought. We'll talk about that when we come back. You're listening to the AEW podcast, AEW Unrestricted.
Yeah. All right, and we're back. We're back. Cool. And we're back. AEW Unrestricted, the official AEW podcast. JR, you were just talking about your new book that's coming out in March, continuation of your previous autobiography.
It's the hardest thing I've done because I wrote about the era of going through, the Attitude Era, the 83-week stuff, getting Bell's palsy, and then getting it again, and then getting it again. I kept getting knocked down, and I kind of go through that story, but it's hard to try to relive all that.
Right.
They weren't happy days.
No.
And I had a great partner that if I had not have had her, I would have probably gone to hell in a handbasket.
Right.
It's just I don't know if I had the character integrity to maintain the decorum that I should have if without her. Mm-hmm. I couldn't understand the hand I was being dealt time and time again, and then the issues at work that became ribs on the square, as they say. That's the great thing about pro wrestling, or the sad part about it, one of the two, is that you can talk to some old timer in wrestling, and they can really bust your balls if they want to. Then you can take exception to it. They say, brother, I don't have to work in you.
Right.
I'm just kidding.
Right.
That's their out on everything.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or one of my favorites is one of my favorite wrestlers. He would say something and it'd be hurtful, and you'd say, God dang, loosen up, pal. And he said, I was only teasing.
Right.
Bullshit, you weren't just teasing.
Right.
You're just an asshole.
Yeah,
Right,
so,
exactly.
Anyway, so I wrote about those situations and the challenges it made, because the TV landscape kept changing. The requirements for announcers kept changing to more the guys that look like me, older guys, with a Southern accent, especially that can't smile. They ain't no big demand for us. So there's always then that you go to work with your little lunch pail in your hand, kind of worried that, I wonder how long I'm going to need this lunch pail. And sooner, it all catches up with all of us at some point in time, I guess. Vin Scully broadcast Dodger games till he's in his 80s.
Right.
If I said right now I want to broadcast wrestling for AEW until my 80s, some of the younger fans want me to go away and hibernate.
Right.
Or just probably vomiting right now.
Right.
But that's all right.
Yeah.
There's always fans on the internet that are vomiting about something.
Yeah, they are.
You can't ever
The little
make
vomiters.
Oh, damn it.
Damn it, vomiters. I like a vomiter. So, but then I talk about moving from Raw to SmackDown was a big deal to me. I felt like I had ownership of Raw because I was sitting in that chair for all those years through very challenging, lean times into the good days where the company went public with a $160 million IPO. And they did it with talents that I brought in. So I felt very proud about that.
It's an investment on your part.
And I talk about those recruits and signing and what it meant and what it's meant long term to their company. But I haven't been as happy since the Attitude Era as I am now. Now is the best time of my I love it.
Sure.
I really do.
We're having a great time. You mentioned that I was able to read the first manuscript of the book. And I've told you this personally that I don't know how you did it. I mean, there was a lot of things that, I mean, the angle with Michael Cole and the fun he made of you and your operation. I went back and watched all that recently because I hadn't watched it.
Yeah.
And I just
they pulled my head out of my ass.
Pulling your head out of your ass.
Hey, you know what? Here's the thing about that deal. They say that was just business. It was in the last segment of Monday Night Raw.
Right.
The last segment of Monday Night Raw had always been reserved for the big-time players.
That's right.
Austin,
right.
Rock, Undertaker,
right.
Shawn, all these cats. That was they all the first thing you look at when they come to TV.
Yeah.
Who's in the segment 11?
Well, they want whoever's going to be remembered by the fans, right? Because you want them to come back.
It's crossed over the hour. People change the channels.
Right.
To 10 after. Good deal.
Right.
So it was kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy type deal that I know you're screwing with me because why would you put this segment of actually pulling a mannequin head that looks like me,
right,
or roughly looks like me, out of my own ass?
Right.
That's not funny.
No,
that's not.
The only people that laugh about things like that are the sycophants that feel the urge to be in Vince's world.
Right.
And they don't understand that he sees through a lot of that stuff. He'd rather be in his world because you earn more money for the company, therefore more for yourself. That drives everything.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was a little personal. I know that I just got home from the hospital for my surgery, in intensive care for 8 days.
Right.
And my little wife, God bless her, I was crying when I was on a morphine thing, so I didn't even see it happen live.
Right.
But when I woke up, she tried to explain it and started crying.
Yeah.
And I thought, he must have really hit a new low here.
Yeah. Well, he did.
So
I mean, he really did. And I again.
Sometimes you can love something so much it's not good for you.
Right.
I've loved pro wrestling much in my entire life. We talked about that. If I make good grades, you get to watch wrestling and roller derby, kid. Okay, thanks, Dad. 6th grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. But boy, this the tribulations of it's like being with a woman that you love but doesn't love you.
Right.
Mm.
And that's tough.
Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, or vice versa.
Right.
So that was kind of how I looked at the wrestling business. But now I haven't had as good a relationship in our business as I have now in years. Like I said,
that makes me so happy to hear.
The great thing about my run here, I had a good run with Cowboy. We made a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Made some money with Turner. We both there at the same time.
Yes, we were.
Same contract.
Mm-hmm.
We'll tell them that story about our negotiations with Jack Peters Sunday, won't we?
Yes, we will. It's one of the great negotiation stories of all time.
Oh boy.
Yeah, Jim negotiated my first contract.
Really?
Yes, he did.
I had too much coffee that morning.
Uh-oh.
Oh God. I think they agreed to our terms just to get me to shut the hell up.
Right.
I really believe that.
Right.
Shut the hell up.
Right.
We're going to do the deal. Stop. We got your deal.
Right.
So it was great.
And I was sitting in the meeting thinking, I better say something about myself to sell myself. But then I think he's on a freaking roll. Let him go, man.
Dude, when I need to renew my contract, I'm just gonna have JR come with me.
You should, because I
need you to talk to this man right here.
When I got home that day, I told Lois, how'd it go? I said, it's great. We're gonna make more money we've ever made, thanks to Jim Ross.
Well, we earned it. We deserved it.
Yeah, we really did.
Well, here's the deal. We're getting our ratings are as good as at times as the Braves. Mm-hmm. And we did as good as some random SEC games that they were a hot game. The National did get them. Then sometimes we did better ratings than those guys.
Sure. And
I knew that we weren't making the kind of money they were making, or even close.
No, that's right.
No,
we weren't.
So
those announcers.
So we did all right there, and I think that helped us because at that point you're not going to go down.
No.
On your income, right?
No.
No.
We kind of set the benchmark there, is what I'm saying.
That's right.
And that number helped me get a good number with Vince.
Sure.
In '93.
Right.
So it was an interesting move. We backed into that deal, quite frankly. But
right place, right time. Yeah. Right person in our negotiations
right amount of coffee.
Too.
Right amount of coffee.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Too much coffee.
Yeah. We talked about the book is coming out
March.
In March, right?
2020. I'm going to be doing a lot of book signings and all that good stuff, as you would think. Yeah, in March.
Right. You also have another podcast, Grilling JR, with our buddy Conrad Thompson.
The Podfather.
How's that been going for you?
We're the largest tag team in the history of podcasting, Conrad and I. I told him the other day, I said, we're like the goddamn McGuire twins of podcasting, Billy and Benny. One weighed 660 and one weighed 640. And I actually booked them and refereed their matches back in the day.
Right. You've been involved in movies too. You were in the Andy Kaufman movie.
Yeah.
How was that experience for you?
Good.
Yeah.
I felt bad for Lance Russell going into it because I basically played Lance, and he was there as a ring announcer. He did both jobs at Memphis. He did the ring announcing and the commentary.
Right.
One of the finest gentlemen I've ever met in the history of wrestling.
No question. I agree.
What a wonderful man.
Yes.
And but he and his wife Audrey were out there with Jan and me, and we had a great hotel. They treated us like kings.
Yeah.
Milos Forman was a first-class director, Oscar winner.
Right.
And so what we do, we go out there to do the scene in the Olympic Auditorium, and it's full of folks, extras, that they got to feed now, right? Mm-hmm. So they're on a little bit of a schedule. They don't want to feed them 2 meals.
Right.
They want to feed them 1 meal.
Right.
All right. So it's kind of a gun to our heads. So we do this scene where it's Lawler and Kaufman entrances, and I have this little script. So I memorized my lines. It's just very basic stuff. But they underwrote the scene, and I had no more lines. So and Foreman was eating the ass of the writers. He's hot. Because now they've got to keep all these hundreds and hundreds of people over to feed them again.
Right.
Bad budgeting.
Nope.
So I started to say, Mr. Foreman, this little jerk assistant guy was trying to get me to be quiet because Milos is talking. I said, Mr. Foreman, I think I can solve this problem. I can ad-lib that whole scene. That's what I do for a living every Monday night.
Yeah.
So if you will, is it worth a try to not have to feed these people again? Hell yes, it's worth a try.
Well,
so they re-racked it, and I knocked that son of a bitch out in one take.
I feel like when you tell somebody, like, I'm going to save you a bunch of money if you just let me do this thing, you're going to get to do that
Well,
thing.
he loved it. So he loved it so much. Big hugs, all that stuff. So I said, I want to bring you back because I'm going to rewrite a scene and put you back into a scene. Which means I get a little more cash and more screen time. So they brought me back to a little sound studio, same clothes, same people around me, and I did some commentary that they could do cutaways of during that scene that I just did a few days before. Right. So I got a few more bucks out of it. Right. It's a fun experience.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey was an idiot.
Yeah, that's what I understand.
Oh yeah, yeah. He stayed in character.
Right.
He was He was who he thought Andy Kaufman was.
Right.
Not knowing that Andy Kaufman was a very soft-spoken, well-mannered, genteel guy.
Right.
And nothing like the presentation that he was presented with in that movie.
Right.
So, but it was a fun experience. It was a lot of fun. I go when I sit back on cable, I try to watch some of it because I know that it was a great time for Jan. She got to go to 2 premieres. I only got to go to one of them because I had to do Monday Night Raw. Lawler went to both of them.
Right.
So I stayed back and manned the fort.
Any other movies in your future here?
Yeah, I got one that's called Paradise.
Thunder in Paradise?
The remake.
The remake.
I'm playing the car. A talking car. Right. It's a new concept. I've been seeing in years. I got a movie with Ash Avildsen, who's with Summerlin Records, and I did one with him, and a little art type film, and then this next one I got a bigger role, and I'll have to get back to you on that so you can plug it.
Okay,
but it's being edited.
Good.
And I did it in L.A. about 3 or 4 months ago, over a couple of days. And that's the nice thing about those guys. They're big wrestling fans. Ash is a friend. Ash is who I'm partnering with on the book called Millie. I bought the rights to a book called The Mildred Burke Story, Queen of the Ring. It's an amazing book.
Right.
Jeff Lean, who's an investigative reporter for the Washington Post, wrote it.
Right.
All this documentable stuff. It's really deep. It's not about headlocks. It's about life and being a 5 foot female in a land of men who treat her like dog doo-doo.
Right.
And so we're going to do a movie called Millie, the Mildred Burke Story, and Ash is writing that. So he put me in give me a little role in this movie. So
that'd be awesome.
So stuff
Looking
you
forward.
do. You meet friends, you treat them good, Tony. You treat people nice.
That's right.
And it comes around.
Oh yeah.
It really does.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I sometimes I wonder why you weren't treated nicer than you were in the WWE.
But it all ended up in a good spot.
Yeah,
for
it
me.
sure did.
So
You're
that's
right.
the bottom line
exactly
is
right.
that where am I today? I'm happy.
Yay.
I'm happy.
That's
and
what's
I want to
important.
be here, and I want to help these young guys and play it forward. And I know that you and I have fun with Excalibur. People think we're picking on him.
Yeah.
We're not picking on Excalibur.
No, we're not.
You guys have the greatest chemistry.
We have fun.
I love it.
And look, we're not doing golf.
No.
Right.
We're not doing, we're just doing like drunk cricket or something.
That's right. Right. Well, you've done NFL. I mean, you said XFL. You were on the Atlanta Falcons broadcast. That was a lot of fun. I know WSB.
Love doing football.
Yeah, work with Bill Rosinski and Jeff Van Note.
Yeah,
on those
guys.
broadcasts. Yeah,
we had a lot of fun flying on a team plane.
Right. Absolutely.
Learned a lot about society on that plane. Right. Racial relations on that plane. Sure. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Part of the life, being able to do things like that helped me have a better life, Tony, Aubrey. You put me in a position to have these experiences that I can't replicate.
Right. Right.
I still get off going to throw out a minor league games where I throw out the first pitch.
Sure.
Because I always throw a knuckleball. I do, and they all look at it like you're crazy, you know, because it's just wobbling through the air like 10 miles an hour, you know.
Right.
So, it's little things like that.
Right.
Having a ballpark hot dog, that's kind of cool for me.
Right.
So, but now I'm in the football mode till the Sooners and LSU have to do their thing.
Right.
Well, we can't say that because this is going to air next year.
Right.
So I'm an idiot. Edit that. That's not going to happen.
Well, maybe by this time the Sooners will be national champions. We can all celebrate.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, I'm for them. I don't want LSU to
Moscow
win.
Mules for everybody.
I can tell you that. You also you collect wrestling memorabilia. You have some prize things.
I got a lot of cool stuff. I had 2 restaurants at one time that had memorabilia as the theme.
Right.
So I called on all my old friends and acquaintances and peers and co-workers, et cetera, asking for a donation, so to speak. Or, So, like, I got a pair of Ric Flair's red patent leather boots.
Oof.
I got Rock's boots. I got, Undertaker's entire outfits, including shoes and gloves from WrestleMania. I got,
wow.
Plus all my Mickey Mantle stuff.
Right.
John Wayne stuff. And Sopranos.
Right.
Jan was a great collector.
Right.
And she knew I loved Mantle and John Wayne.
Right.
Big time.
Right.
So I got a lot of that stuff.
You got John Wayne cufflinks.
3 pair of them.
Right. I've seen
3
them.
pair of John Wayne cufflinks.
Yeah.
His last cigarette lighter.
Wow.
Ooh.
How about that?
And his letter opener.
Right.
His last hairpiece.
What?
And I saw a picture on Twitter today of him in the movie She Wore a Yellow Ribbon.
Right.
Right.
That hat he's wearing in most of his pictures, the bill turned up in the front, I own that too.
Wow.
Whoa.
Oh, very cool.
So I don't know what my kids are going to do with it when I'm gone, but it'll be a nice fight.
Yeah. Well, it'll be great. Listen, thanks, buddy. It's always great talking to
This
you.
was an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
I enjoy the catering. The green room was wonderful.
That's right. It's a great
My
place
ride
to
over
be.
was terrific.
Okay. Well, thanks. JR has been with us. This is the AEW Unscripted podcast.
You got the name wrong, Tony.
This is the AEW Unrestricted podcast.
There you go.
What the hell?
Unrestricted.
Unrestricted,
Unrestricted.
like my memory. You can subscribe to our podcast for free wherever you get your podcast. Don't forget, AEW Dynamite is on TNT, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central Time each and every Wednesday. JR and I and Excalibur will be on there. And this lady right here, hell of a referee, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, she does a great job.
I just yell at dudes.
Okay. So I'm Tony Schiavone with JR, Aubrey Edwards. Thanks for listening
Thank you so much.
to our podcast.